Today I am going to be covering 4 Dadish games: Dadish, Dadish 2, Dadish 3, and Daily Dadish. So stick around because you won't want to miss any of those. All of them are full of lore that nobody's ever discovered before. And just to clarify, there was already a Dadish Theories video that came out, only that's not the best one because it was just based on speculation and not in-game theory and more evidence and stuff. So make sure to subscribe if you like the video or not. It's pretty much up to you. But I am going to start the video. We're going to be starting off with Dadish 1, which nobody might think that there's any lore at all, but this is actually the game with the biggest and best lore of the franchise. Let's go. Alright, so we start off the video to none other than the place where it all began. So the game already starts with a very simple plot, and there's not much lore or anything here. It just starts off with the kids being attracted by a balloon, so they go and investigate it. Now, for most of the levels, all of them end with a kid radish that you find, and there's a bit of fun dialogue, which will actually be a majority of where the lore lies. But not all of these characters at the end are his children, because there's also this possum. This is Panic the possum, and he just screeches and does a bunch of unexpected things. Anyways, here for the lore building of the Dadish world, we see that there are malls in this world, which means there could be like human civilizations and stuff, and I'll continue to show you how this idea is supported. Okay, so here is where it gets a little bit stranger. So Dadish is just trying to look for his kids, but suddenly a boss named Burger Gurgler pops up, and he claims that Dadish is trying to reach Lord Dunrak, which is very strange because Dadish doesn't seem to know anything about this, and this will be apparent throughout all of the other bosses. So Dadish doesn't really know what's going on, but there's all of these bosses trying to stop him. Now here it gets even weirder, where Dadish is just talking with his son, and he starts saying things about a video game industry, basically saying that they're in a video game, but he still doesn't have any idea what that is. So basically, some of the characters know that they're in the game in a way, but don't actually really know what that is, and we will see a lot more of that. I mean, even here Dadish realizes that it's pretty weird how they fly away at the end of every single level, and I will actually share some of my theories later on. Here we see another boss, but this one doesn't really mention anything about Lord Dunrak or any video gamey stuff. So by this point there is already a ton of lore that we can cover, with some of the characters actually being knowledgeable of knowing that they're inside of a game, and there are already bosses sent to stop him. Like Dadish is playing his own game, he's his own character. All of the bosses and enemies are just kind of there, made by the game creator, and Dadish is just kind of some sort of AI in the game, playing the game, you know? And we keep getting more evidence of this, such as here where we are introduced to the hot dog enemies in this level, which continuously just shoot out hot dogs. And Dadish's kid here says that they get him from an interdimensional portal. That's not exactly from a game, but that could be suggesting something like that, like some sort of code where the sausages are stored. And there's also sometimes when you yourself can question, why is there a talking radish? And sometimes the game gives us hints to like the anatomy of these guys, like how here they say that they don't have any bones, and then later on there's going to be more clues. Whenever you see the anatomy sign up there, you can know that I'm just talking about the Dadish and his body, how they are built, because they're like mutants. And here we meet Sharon, which does not look like a Sharon at all. But now Sharon, just like Burger Gurgler, implies that Dadish is a warrior that came here to stop them. But Dadish doesn't really understand that this is a game and all of these bosses are kidnapping his children and he has to save them. Kind of like a Mario saving Princess Peach sort of scenario, but with a lot of peaches. Also here Dadish questions why he has so many kids, and honestly, this is still a mystery. Maybe it's just because of the game made him have so many children to look after and care for. And here is a world I bet most of you didn't know about, because I'm guessing most people are mobile gamers. The mobile version of Dadish doesn't have this world, but all the others do. So here there's not much, but we can find out that the enemies can talk, but they don't really talk because they just focus on being enemies and attacking Dadish. And I didn't know this, but the Dadish wiki made me realize that this is the only boss that doesn't specifically say that he's with Lord Dunrek, probably implying how this world was added later on to other ports of the game. And we finally get to the last world, where we immediately see Lord Dunrek chasing Dadish and his kids. And we also see the balloons from the beginning of the game, sort of showing how Dunrek probably specifically led the children away just to sort of start off the game and start off the conflict. And since the game didn't want to show the final boss at the beginning of the game, they just introduce him here in this little segment. And finally we get to Lord Dunrek. He's pretty much the same as all the other bosses, no really intriguing dialogue, except for the fact that he says he heard great things about Dadish, but then immediately admits that he did not. This could have just been something that maybe the game developer told him to say, just for the game, you know? But yeah, he is still apparently a maniac, so they fight. But just wait a second, because there is another theory revolving this character. Lord Dunrek could actually be a good guy because he says good things, like he apologizes for what Dadish has been through. And when he was introduced by one of Dadish's kids, he said that he was a kind person, but then something changed, and maybe the game forced both that kid that introduced him and Lord Dunrek to say bad things about him, like that he's a maniac and how Lord Dunrek starts attacking Dadish. Now this is actually because of a user that mentioned how the name Dunrek is actually some sort of acronym, and the meaning of the word is a very nice person, which is pretty strange. Maybe Lord Dunrek is actually a nice person, but there's some code, some sort of stuff going on, and the creator of the game could just be forcing him to be the bad guy. He doesn't even really want to, and there's just nothing he can really do about it. It's pretty sad for Dunrek. It is a little strange how we can see that all of the bosses die, but some of them later on just get revived. And this just shows that the game creator is tied into the lore of the game, as he can basically just change anything that the characters do and say, and it just makes it harder for me to uncover the truth. But we already finished the first game, so now let's go to analyzing and theorizing the lore of Dadish 2. Actually, I lied, because after this we're going to Faust 2. Faust 2 came after Dadish, and it had some characters from the Dadish game, and it also had a little teaser for Dadish 2, which is pretty cool. And then we go on to Dadish 2. Dadish 2 starts off in the same place as the billboard that announced its arrival in Faust 2. And this whole game basically takes place on one day, which is Bring Your Kids to Work Day. Now there isn't any actual lore here. I've looked through all of the backgrounds and stuff, but it just seems like an office. but where it gets strange is the dialogue. Here Dadish and his kid shows a little bit more sentience by actually asking why there are buzzsaws and challenges through an office, because it's not normal, and even they begin to realize that. And suddenly there's a bunch of donut guys and stuff. This just continues to show and provide for my theory that Dadish and other characters are more sentient, and the creator of the game is just holding them against their will. I mean, even here, Dadish doesn't even really know why he has a job. It's actually just part of the game. The evidence is so good that it's actually in front of us. Even if it's displayed as a joke, we think it's displayed as a joke, but they don't. They're obviously sentient. Something is different about this game. It's not like your usual game. It's breaking the fourth wall. Eventually the dad does decide to stop working here. I don't think the creator of the game tried to interfere with any of this, because he was about to move on to the next world either way, so these actions of quitting his job wouldn't interfere with the rest of the game or any future games. Anyways, when we defeat the first world's boss, we find a very surprising character. Apparently, the first boss of the first game is back and not evil anymore. Now, it can't get any clearer than this. This guy was obviously evil in the first game, and now he's just nice and sweet. I'm theorizing that the game creator just let him not be evil anymore, and when Dadish asks a question of why he's not evil anymore, I feel like the excuse Burger Gurgler made up is words that the creator inserted in his mouth to avoid any suspicion. A game developer is almost like a godlike figure for its game, right? Because it's in charge of everything. In the next world, Dadish asks the boss if this space Dunrack is the same as the other Dunrack. Also, this boss is just a regular burger bully enemy, which is a little bit strange if you think about it, but it shows that all of the characters, all of the enemies can talk. And I just realized that I have been saying Dunrack instead of Durnak. That's going to make some people pretty upset. I have no idea how I didn't know that for so long. Fantomo Temple is another pretty strange world because we can see Dunrack's face all over this temple, which begs the question of Dunrack's origins, but this was never elaborated. Like, we don't know, but it's probably just for speculation. It does seem pretty strange that even in the arena, everywhere you can just see Dunrack's face made out of gems. There's something more to Dunrack, but there's just so many things. This might be a red herring, but there's so many things saying that he's a good guy, and then there's so many things, and I don't even know what those things are saying. I mean, in any context, it makes no sense why Dunrack's face would be in a cursed temple. Or maybe it's like a curse of the code or something. And for anybody wondering why there's a ball of possums, it's all of the possums that Panic the Possum saved in Dadish 1. And when we finally recover Burger Gurgler's hat, we can see that he still does crimes and stuff. He's still gonna do crimes, but it's definitely nowhere near the level of evilness. He was screaming almost as if he was possessed in the first game, you know, just wanting to kill Dadish for no reason. Here Dadish was tricked into entering a spaceship, which leads them to Soleka Station. Soleka Station is weird because it has D's like from Dunrack all over, so it's probably owned by Dunrack. But the thing is, we can clearly see Earth in the background. This doesn't mean too much now, but in Daily Dadish there are tons of references to pop culture. This is clearly not Earth, merely based by the names of the locations in the game. I'll say that this is a red herring, but it still begs the question why the creator would specifically choose an exact model of Earth to put in his game where we clearly know it's a game and something else is going on as the characters know they're in a game. Here we get a little bit more of a hint about the anatomy of these radish mutant creatures. Our second encounter with Durnek isn't the most intriguing one, but we can see that this is his station, as in the arena we can see the little D sign, and there's nothing that really stands out here. Dadish is just tired and wants to finish finding his kids and finish the game. The only thing that really stands out is the reason why Dunrek wants to fight. Just because Dadish smashed his bottle, he wants to have his revenge. This leans more into the lunatic side, which I think might still be controlled by the creator. And I don't know how we can truly defeat Durnek, because even when he's defeated, his drops go all over the place, and it just stalls him until he can eventually find another container. So we're never actually defeating Durnek, we're just defeating his container. And at the end we can see around 50 Radish children, but this is not all of the children he has, there are more. Okay, it's time for the third game of the series, and by this point I do not know the difference between Dunrek and Durnek, but at least I know what I'm saying about the theories and stuff. So anyway, it's here for Dadish 3, we need a smaller plot, and it just starts off with the radishes going on a field trip apparently. This is going to be important as the boss of this game is going to relate to this. Eventually, the bus crashes, and the antagonists of this game want to turn the Radish children into soup. And then later on, we meet Mameto. Mameto is the most controversial character, which everybody hates, because now canonically all of the Radish children are Radish and Tomato children, and nobody likes that. It was just based on a pun, but come on, it's basically what the game relates around. But it's really cool how Mameto has this arc where she's really busy and stuff, and it actually makes sense why she's been missing and stuff. And isn't it strange how Mameto is just suddenly back, just kind of like Burger Gurgler for the same reason? I mean, the only reason they came back is to be new game mechanics, kind of something the creator of the game would do. And I think I finally realized where all of my confusion came from. I keep changing Durnek's name, and I keep getting it wrong and misreading it, and now it's Canrad, or I don't even know anymore. Why is this game so strange with naming? After a mental breakdown, I am ready to continue. We meet Mameto again, and she isn't really listening to Dadish, even if she asks stuff that a mom would usually say. Maybe Mameto isn't even back, maybe she died or something, and this is now just fully the creator of the game just bringing her back, and it's just him, and that's why it's so soulless, so lifeless. Here we see another reason why people didn't really like the game, because characters just felt misplaced and they didn't really make a lot of sense. And this guy is probably not related to them, or probably he is. I don't really know his deal is, but there's not much lore here. But he does die later on. After we defeat the boss with a funny laugh, we finally meet one of the most important characters of the game, the Dolphin. This is a dolphin who is going to be the final boss, and then this is another reason why people don't really like the third game, because it doesn't even have Durnek anymore. I tried to find some theories or anything to do with the dolphin, but it just doesn't really make sense. He is a cool twist villain, but other than that, there is not any lore behind him. The only memorable thing that he mentions is that he knows what levels are and what a level and what a game is. So I guess there could be some lore, like maybe the reason he's a twist villain is because he realized he's in the game and he's gotten too sentient, and the creator of the game just rewritten his code to be the cool twist villain. Here we get some dialogue on how Dadish and the kids would eventually be drawn into going into the ocean. They got an invitation. Speaking of which, Dadish can't actually go underwater. We always see him die when he does this. So this is another big example that the game creator is a godlike thing in this game universe. Here the kid says how the dolphin is such a good guy and he's so nice, and this is just kind of paving the path to how he's going to be the twist villain. Eventually Mameto comes up with a lame excuse that is perfectly timed at the end of the game when we won't see her anymore. And, obviously I think that the game creator made her get out of the way so that she isn't in any other games and the newer games can focus on better and newer content. And I forgot to mention this, but we can see two of the bosses. I don't think these are actually bosses. They're just bigger enemies, bigger versions of them, and the game wanted to reuse them. Even if nobody really liked that, they stopped using Lord Darnak and started just using a dolphin. I actually thought this was the best boss fight out of the series. And it's strange how he was named Lord Canrud, but he doesn't know who Lord Darnak is, which is, again, is just a bunch of gamey stuff. The creator of the game did this. This is how he set up the story, and these two characters don't canonically know each other. He also reveals that he was the one who tried to kidnap the children at the beginning of the game, which, even if this whole game was so random, at least this kind of tied it together a little bit. And look at this explosion. It's exactly the same as the explosions from the game Super Cat Tales 2. I'm pretty sure this is the biggest inspiration to Dadish, as we can see many of the terrains and simply just how everything looks. It's all based on the Super Cat Tales series, but they're not connected. None of the games are connected or anything, which is good, because they're both different companies and they're both doing their own thing. But come to think of it, they're both independent game makers making a whole game series by themselves. It's pretty obvious that Dadish is mainly based off of the Super Cat Tales series. And last but not least, we get a fun cameo from Burger Gurgler. And it's a bit strange because later on in Daily Dadish we can see that they're not friends anymore because Burger Gurgler starts doing crimes again and stuff. But here he rescues them, but still it's cool. Alright, let's talk about the best game for the Dadish lore building, which is Daily Dadish. First of all, right off the bat, we can see that Dadish and his kids basically just adopted the little possum, which is pretty cute. It's kind of like a part of its family. And in the tutorial, we can see a character that's Granddadish. And I was actually really interested in this character. I thought I could play a bigger part, a bigger role in a future game, but he's just a stranger, which I guess it was just made for comedic purposes, and that's pretty good. You got me there. So for now, I'm just gonna share some facts like how Dadish used to keep bees in his past, and I'm gonna share some of the better stuff later on. If you've ever wondered why Dadish didn't try to make a fence or anything to keep his children from escaping, the children are actually pretty clever and they could find a way past these obstacles. Kind of like their dad. Here Dadish and the little radishling just talk about the ethics of eating a banana, and here we can see that another banana is alive basically. So yeah, I really hope you guys are enjoying these because I have been working so long trying to find the best bits of Daily Dadish. It took 365 days to do this. In this game, the possum acts like a friend that Dadish can talk to because he's lost all his other friends, and he talks about how he thinks he's a bad parent, and I kind of agree with him. He is, because most of his children are criminals and stuff, but he does look out for them, so that's gotta count for something. Here we kind of get a hint that there are humans in the Dadish universe, And apparently in Daily Dadish, they're treating the Dadish and his kids more like mutants and stuff, like they're outlawed from human society, even though they're kind of similar. I don't know how Dadish can even afford phones for some of his kids, even go places, because he lost his job and most of the time he's looking for children, but apparently they just go and do stuff in the background, which is cool, some family bonding time. But sometimes you really gotta feel bad. I mean, this is a really struggling family. Dadish can barely keep some of his children from doing the bad stuff. They just keep running out of the way. It's kind of running out of control. Here Dadish says that if he had money, he would actually invest it after changing his answer to jet skis to go along with something the child would like. But I really hope he does invest. I mean, their family's struggling. Please help them. Here's another one for anatomy. Apparently, even if they have mouths and stuff, they don't actually need any food, so they could probably be made out of all plant cells. Okay, finally we can get some more insight on anatomy, even if these characters are made by the game creator and we know that they're just in a game. They still question how they are made, as if they would be like in a real life scenario, and they do a ton of references here. Here I don't even know what's going on here anymore. This kid could seriously make a ton of money and help the family, and he just refuses to take the job. And Dadish is actually proud of him, but how could you be proud of him? Your family's struggling. Come on, man, this writing is a little bit terrible, but then again, the creator does have to write dialogue for 365 days. And now let's show a few references, like this one from Scooby-Doo. I really like that they're referencing older franchises. And here we can see them referencing Sonic and Mario very terribly. Of course, this is for copyright reasons because you can't actually say the name of, you know, and this actually ends up being pretty comedic. Now let's get into the compilation of all of the levels with dialogue about how they're aware that they're in a game. Here there's a reference where Dadish mentions that they just fly away at the end of every level. And then here, Dadish and his child have a little bit of talk, and Dadish is actually starting to get aware that he might be dying and respawning. Here a child feels bad about all of the terrible things going on in the world, and Dadish tells him not to worry because Dadish apparently now just full on knows that he's in a video game. Bad things can't really happen, he's just sort of okay with this. But there are still instances that are pretty strange, like here there is a frog telling this kid to abandon all hope. Like, maybe the frog is even more self-aware of how bad the game creator could be, that the game creator is abusing his power. And there are some instances where Dadish is fully aware that he's in the game, or he just knows a little bit, or he doesn't even know at all. And I feel like the game creator is just resetting this part of Dadish's brain in the game constantly, just so that he doesn't realize again that he's in the game, but he keeps finding out. And here I love the fact that one of the days is actually Dadish's birthday. That's pretty cool. And Dadish says that he's 35. He says he's been 35 for a few years now, sort of referencing how Daily Dadish could be played over and over again over the years. And in this final reference, Dadish says he could have been a sports player because he can double jump and stuff, but he knows he's in a video game and he can't do that. Okay, now as I let all of that information sink in, there are some instances where Dadish returns to do some light platforming through his past office job, and there is some dialogue where he talks with his sons about his job, like how he would steal thousands of pens, and yeah, it's just kind of cool but not much lore building. Now let's get into references about past characters, such as Mameto and Burger Gurgler and stuff. Although here, there is a sort of nod to Dadish's past life, how somebody sent him manure. He probably did something bad, I don't really know, but it's a funny little joke. Also, in case you think that the Dolphin is coming back, I know most people don't really like him, the game pretty much confirms that he's gone for good. And here we get a little bit of knowledge of all of Dadish's friends and what they're doing. Most of them are just gone doing their own thing, which is pretty sad, but hopefully he will find a new friend soon, more than just the possum to talk to. Here we get to know a little bit about Dadish's and Mameto's past, I guess. I'm just including this because this joke is pretty good. And here's another really good joke. This is the best out of the whole 365 days, and you can't convince me otherwise. But now it's the end of the video. I'm pretty sure nobody stayed until the end, but I'm curious if anybody stayed all the way until the end and watched through the whole thing. Please comment. I'm actually really curious to see if at least one person comments that they watched the full video. If they didn't, then I just did all of this work for nothing.